Okay, so for your first foray into the Grasshopper realm, I need to show you first how to open Grasshopper. So as I sort of mentioned in the beginning of the class today, Grasshopper is, actually maybe I didn't, Grasshopper is a plugin for Rhino. So in order to open it, you just need to type in the command Grasshopper and hit enter. So it should load relatively quickly. Grasshopper's not that big of a program. If it doesn't load quickly, then you might have an issue that we need to work on. Yes?
So does it mean you download, if you already have Rhino, do you need Grasshopper? Or you can just type in Grasshopper?
If you install Rhino,
Also,
you will not have Grasshopper by default. You have to go and install it. So actually, that's a good question. How do you install Grasshopper? Yeah, you could just search for Grasshopper for Rhino. If you don't say for Rhino, you're going to get that silly voicemail company, which apparently is worth $30 million somehow. So this is what you're looking for. And you just go to Get and latest version or something like that, and you can download it there. You can figure it out. So then it'll run through and install, and what happens after you do the Rhino command is a window will pop up on your page that looks like this. This is the Rhino, or the Grasshopper Workspace, okay? And all of these little buttons and stuff that you see here in the workspace, they're all, you probably won't have any because the information gets wiped, but these are all old files of mine. So if you need to go back to your most recent file, you can just click it right on here. Let's talk quickly about setting up your workspace so that you can actually be sort of efficient. The downside of working in this lab is that you only have one monitor. It's really nice when I can have my whole workspace like this and see my model quite large, and then I can have my Grasshopper on the other screen and it looks like that. Can't do that here. Unfortunately, we're kind of limited both in resolution and in screen size. So we have to basically dock the software however we can, sort of like this, and that doesn't really leave much room for modeling. So what I usually wind up doing is pulling this to be like, I don't know, 2/5 of the way across, and this information you only need, the properties windows and layers windows, you only need that sometimes. So I usually just pull this back to about there. Something like that. That gives you a pretty reasonable workspace, and you can pretty reasonably move about the Grasshopper workspace as well. That will change later in the semester when we're developing really, really long definitions, and I'm not going to scare you by showing you them yet. But for now, when we have just a couple of nodes, this will be fine. Okay? Any questions or issues launching? Yes?
Is it cool if we turn this off?
The lights?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, hang on one moment. Okay, so let's start to understand the relationship of the two and the user interface that you're going to be working within. Grasshopper has a sort of direct correlation to the Rhino workspace. Basically what's happening is Grasshopper is running a program continuously until you put an input that's actually going to generate geometry, and then it publishes it out into the Rhino workspace. So in essence, this program right now is running, and you don't have to follow along with me yet, but until I actually say that I'm going to construct a point, it won't do anything. But once I drop it into the workspace, it's running. And that's where this point came from, right there. Okay, so that is the point that was created by this component, or node, whatever you want to call it. It depends on which software package you're in. Like Dynamo, for instance, likes to call them nodes. Some people prefer component. Grasshopper, I think they prefer saying component. But anyway, so what is this, right? I'm going to zoom in on this and talk about the anatomy of a component really, really fast. A component basically has three parts. Okay, it has an input, it has basically a title, and it has some other information and features built into that part of it, and then it has an output. Okay, so the most important thing you need to know here about information in Rhino or in Grasshopper is that it flows left to right. So these then, the X, Y, and Z, are your input, right? X, Y, and Z on this side. So you input information into these connection anchors, whatever you want to call them. And then you have the title of it right there. That's construct point, and it gives you some descriptions, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a bit. And then you have an output. So this says point coordinate, and then it says one locally defined value, 0, 0, 0. That information is produced by the input values X, Y, and Z. So when you look at X, Y, and Z here, they're all reading 0.0. And that's what you get on the other side. X, Y, Z, 0, 0, 0. You have any questions?
Quick question.
Yes.
You said a component consisted of 3 parts. You said input, output, and display.
Just basically title. Sometimes there are like settings and additive properties to it, but it's basically just the title, description, whatever, or process command, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to stop this video segment, and then we'll move into actually producing your first algorithm.